So as I started to move ahead in both, not only my ability to think clearly improved, but also my moods improved. So as I went along, I asked myself, wow, I wonder, like, which was it? Was it the gluten or was it the EMP? And so I started to experiment a little bit. And so I'd go ahead and I'd have some pasta that had glutens in it. And a couple of days have passed, and oh my gosh, like the cloud just started to come back. So went back gluten-free. And then I thought, well, so then I just stopped taking the AMP. And within a couple of days, the black cloud started to move back in. So it appears that when I'm off glutens and I'm taking EMP, I have good mental health.
Greetings, hello, good day, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Take a look outside, it's wondrous. Thank you for joining Truehope Cast, the official podcast of Truehope Canada. My name is Simon, I am your host. Truehope Canada is a mind and body based supplement company that is dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non-invasive nutritional means. For more information about us, you can visit truehopecanada.com, and we're all over your usual social media sites, so you can check us out there. If you're new to the podcast, please consider subscribing. This series of episodes is focused on people who have a personal story to share in regards to their use of Empower Plus and how it has affected their lives. Today we've got the pleasure of talking with former NHL All-Star professional hockey player Maurice Lukowich. Maurice is a former captain of the Winnipeg Jets and played with Gordie Howe, Bobby Hull, Wayne Gretzky and other hockey legends. Maurice currently coaches hockey goal scoring to players of all ages and skill levels, and also works as a sales rep for Calgary-based LED lighting company called Switch Lighting. Maurice loves to give back to hockey, as hockey has been so good to him. Maurice has gone through a challenging life after hockey that's been filled with many good times, but also with a deep, dark depression, a difficulty in focusing, and at times a very difficult time in simply feeling good. Maurice lives in Calgary, Alberta, and is married with his junior hockey sweetheart Ava, and together they've got a 16-year-old daughter Zoe who loves to sing and dance. He's been using Truehope products for some time, and I'm really excited to hear more about his experience, especially after playing such high-level professional sport. Thank you so much for joining us today, Maurice. Really appreciate your time. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing excellent. I'm just so happy to be able to say that too, because it wasn't always that way.
Well, that's interesting because we're going to get right into your story behind your experience as a professional hockey player and the injuries and concussions that come with something like that, and then your introduction into Truehope and the products. And yeah, we're going to get right into that story. But I'd love to start with, because we were just talking off air about the irony around your introduction to Truehope and Empower Plus. So I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yes, I actually got introduced to it twice. The initial time was from a young gal by the name of Patricia, and I met her at a facility called Potential Place. My brother Leonard, sadly, at the age of 17, got schizophrenia, and he was living in Saskatoon, and so he was put on a medication, and actually his medications changed over the year, where he pretty well ended up on risperidol in the end, and got to a place where his schizophrenia could be managed, but it wasn't being healed. And Leonard was sort of being held captive by my mom, who was protecting him and protected him very, very good for about 40 plus years. And then in 2004, my mom passed away. And so Leonard ended up relocating to Calgary with my brother Ed Lukowich, his former world curling champion, and myself, and we became his caregivers. And I had already done some previous work preparing for that through the Schizophrenia Society. I got to know people down there, and then also at another facility that I helped open called Potential Place, which was a bit of a drop-in center for people with mental illnesses, and it was an outpatient facility. So my brother Len would visit there and spend time there. So I was actually having quite a good time there also. The people are tremendous. And it was there that a gal by the name of Patricia told me about Truehope originally. And she had said she had gone on it. She told me the story about how it was produced in Lethbridge, how it was used originally. Somehow it came experimented with pigs, and it was a fascinating story. And she told me how it had really improved her bipolar illness and that it might be good for Leonard. And so my original look at Truehope was actually for my brother Leonard and not for myself. And so it ended up that even though we struggled in getting Leonard on it because of the system that's sort of
taking the products like consistently and
well, the system doesn't really want him to take.
Oh, okay. You mean like the conventional system?
Yeah, the system wants to keep him on Risperidol.
Sure.
Yeah, so we kind of lost the fight with that one. And then what happened was, at the time, I would say I wasn't considering it for myself, because this would have been about 2006 or 7 in there, because I was on an antidepressant after years of coming out of the NHL, and I finished in 87, and then through the 90s and I just experienced a black depression at times. And at times, I mean, like I'd be sitting and the cloud was just so black, and I'd be on my own at home and I'd be crying, and I'd be asking myself, like, why is it I feel so bad?
This is after you finish playing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I finished in 87, but then I played some in Europe, so I sort of finished about 94. But I did experience depression through these times, and sometimes talking about it would help. But it was in about 2000. Finally, I got talked into go seeing a psychiatrist at Foothills Hospital here in Calgary, and it was worked with Dr. Taze for 3 years. And after the 3 years of attempting to get through this blackness through cognitive therapy, actually being able to reason myself out of it, and that finally, after 3 years, both the doctor and I agreed that it wasn't working.
So 3 years of CBT you were doing?
Yeah.
And it didn't work, okay.
Yeah, and is CBT cognitive therapy?
Cognitive behavioral therapy, yeah.
Oh, there we
exactly,
go, yeah. And it didn't work. And
okay.
So it was then we decided that I would go on an antidepressant. And so it was right around 2000, 1999, 2000, I went on Wellbutrin, and it helped immediately. But the thing was, it didn't get rid of it, but it reduced it so that it was livable. And so I was on that antidepressant till about 2015. So like the first time that I got exposed to Truehope with Patricia was about 2007. I didn't actually consider it for myself. It was right around 2015 that a friend of mine, Maynard Dalderis, who knew a lot about nutrition and wellness and health, said it would be a good idea if I would go off the antidepressant, that it was probably had some bad side effects.
And you said that it helped you in the beginning, but like did that benefit start to wear off?
You know, what happened was I started to have to increase the amount. And
to get the same effect?
Yes.
Okay.
And so Maynard, he pointed out that this was a bit of a like a downward spiral.
Yeah, like if that's how it's working, then like you have to just keep increasing, yes. And obviously the toxicity that comes with something like that and the side effects. It sounds like your friend there was quite a wise person.
Yeah. So it ended up, and the thing was, I had attempted to go off it a couple of times, but I had attempted to go off Wellbutrin cold turkey, and like I would go off it, and within a couple of days, the black cloud just moved right back in. And the black cloud, it was a sadness. It was debilitating, demotivating. Like it was almost like I became a mushroom, just sitting in the dark.
It was really debilitating for you,
Yeah.
like physically and psychologically?
Both.
Both, yeah. Okay.
The thing is, though, I worked out lots. Like I typically would work out every day. And so quite often I would go work out and then I'd feel better afterwards. and then it would just start to come back in. So it was, thank goodness for exercise, though, because exercise was one thing that was helping at that time. But so then when Maynard convinced me that it would be a good idea to wean myself off the Wellbutrin, and so we decided a 6-month period. So I started to slowly take less and less of it. And there was a couple interesting things that happened at the very end of the 6 months is when a good friend of mine, Terry Paskrick, I coached his son in hockey, gave me a call, and he reintroduced me to Truehope. Okay. And so that was right when I was coming off it. It was amazing timing. But also about a month before, I was just into the very last bit of weaning off the Wellbutrin. I picked up a book called Wheat Belly, which actually talked about how bad the glutens were for celiacs. It messes up their small intestine, but that also the possibility that for many people, the glutens were messing up the mind also. And so what happened was in that month prior to taking my last Wellbutrin, the last little piece of it, I went off all glutens. And the amazing thing was in that 1 month where I didn't have 10 pounds, my weight was at 168 for 30 years. Being a professional athlete, I could just hold it at one spot. In 1 month, I lost 8 pounds. And what I understand is there's a fat around the organs that's a dangerous fat that is caused by glutens that actually, it's called visceral fat, that actually disappears. And so without even noticing any change in the mirror, I noticed a change on the scale. So that was pretty cool.
So this is the point where you were on this medication, you decided to taper off,
right.
And then after a 6-month period, you got to a point where you were literally taking the last dose. And then in that period, you met Terry with Truehope. He reintroduced you to Empower Plus, and you also learned about how gluten could be significantly affecting your gut and your brain.
Yes, especially my brain.
Okay.
So, and so it was right just about a week before I went off the glutens that I started, or a week before that I stopped the antidepressant, I went on the EMP, and I can still remember so clearly that day that I took that last little chunk of Wellbutrin, and then it was gone. The bottle was empty. And then I remembered sitting through that day or just waiting. And then the next day, kind of just waiting to see, was the black cloud going to reappear? And then the third day, and the black cloud wasn't coming back. And I was really feeling good.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so it was a very, very cool story. So as I started to move ahead, and both not only my ability to think clearly improved, but also my moods improved. So as I went along, I asked myself, wow, I wonder, which was it? Was it the gluten or was it the EMP? And so I started to experiment a little bit. And so I'd go ahead and I'd have some pasta that had glutens in it. And a couple of days of pasta, and oh my gosh, the cloud just started to come back. So went back gluten-free. And then I thought, well, so then I just stopped taking the AMP. And within a couple of days, the black cloud started to move back in. So it appears that when I'm off glutens and I'm taking EMP, I have good mental health. And I have better moods, better motivated, inspired to do things instead of sitting on the couch looking down and crying and not knowing why.
Yeah, and so you've done some self-experimentation in regards to what works for you, what doesn't, and that's really important when it comes to trying to figure out what works for you, mm-hmm. and how best you can possibly put your body and your mind in a position to feel really well. And I'd love to ask you about, so you're in this.
Oh, can I mention one thing?
Yeah, please.
In this? So what I really feel has happened, because I did experience all sorts of concussions when I played hockey. I got hit one time in Edmonton where by this big defenseman. And when I woke up, I remember our coach actually came out on the ice, Bill Deneen. It was when I played with the Houston Aeros. And it's rare. Like normally it's just the trainer, but the coach was actually on the ice with me. And I remember looking over to him, and his nickname was Foxy. I said, Foxy, what are you doing out here? And he said, son, I came out to see if you're still alive. And I said, really? I got hit that hard? And he said, yep. And he said, by the way, you know what city are you in? And I thought about it for a little bit. And we were playing in Edmonton, but I said, Calgary? And he said, I think it'd be good if you came back and sat beside me for a little while on the bench.
Yeah, wow, that's exactly where my question was going to go. So, like, you're sitting day to day with this dark depression, and you've got no motivation to really do anything, and you've got these dark thoughts. Like, can you link that to your past? Like, are you directly correlating that, do you think, to your experiences getting hurt and concussed significantly frequently as well?
Right. Yeah. So I believe the concussions have had a huge effect, possibly contributing to some of the depression. Yet I think that the concussions have more to do with my ability to actually focus. And so what happens is I think the concussions had more to do that. And I think actually the glutens have more to do with the depression. And yet I think EMP helps with both. So, and I'm like it's not only EMP I like, but I really like the inositol. It's when I take inositol, it seems to just really sharpen up my focus, my ability to focus. And I'm not sure I'm pretty positive that, because I can be doing something and it's amazing, my mind will want to do 10 different things while I'm just attempting to do the one thing. My mind constantly wants to distract me away from actually completing that.
Like focusing on that one thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm unsure if other people go through this, but it's pretty frustrating to just take and do one thing. When I use the EMP and the inositol, it seems to allow me to be able to actually focus and complete that one thing without feeling anxiousness about not getting something else completed.
You go from this kind of like scattered brain experience to this ability to like focus on that one task.
Yes.
That's really powerful. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, it's and the thing is, in hockey, I've looked back at it and thought about it, because in hockey, it's rare that we actually just take the puck and just go straight down on one task. Sometimes on a breakaway, we're just wide open. We're just zooming down the ice, and we're just totally focused on what we're going to do when we get right in front of the goaltender. Most of the rest of the time, as we're coming down the ice, we're figuring out, are we going left, or are we going right? So we're constantly looking at and almost constantly adjusting. Like I might fake inside, go outside, and then come down. And I haven't got the defenseman beat now. I've got a delay to the outside. So I'm constantly assessing, can I keep going on this line, or do I have to go to plan B?
Yeah, you're making like 1,000 micro decisions in that one moment, which is like, that's gonna train your brain to be constantly thinking about your environment, making those little judgments here and there.
Yeah, so like switching from one thing to the next. So have I actually brought that thinking into my regular life now, that when I go to type up a report, that even though I'm typing that report now, I'm thinking about all these other things, because I'm constantly looking at what is plan B, what is plan B. So what's cool with EMP and inositol, it really allows me just to focus on plan A. Like I'm on that breakaway, let's just get that puck to the net and get it past the goaltender.
Okay.
All right.
Looking back when you were playing, was there a discussion in regards to head injury, concussion, and the after effects?
No.
None whatsoever. Because, I'm from the UK. We play pretty, soccer, football is nowhere near as like, physically rough and tumble as hockey is. So, I've don't have that experience, but like you would get hit on the ice in a really significant way, and rather taking months off to recover from that brain trauma, you're taking minutes off and then you're back in the game.
Yeah, quite often was maybe 1 or 2 shifts. Sometimes it might have been a period. I actually never left a game because of a concussion. what was interesting was sometimes, though, I would come back to the bench and I wouldn't know any of my teammates. And I'd have to get reintroduced. Like I can remember one time sitting beside Dale Howardchuk and Scott Arneal, and I'd got hit in Edmonton another time. And I looked over and I said, hey, who are you two guys? And I remember Scott Arneal laughed. He said, wow. He says, you must have really got dinged on that one.
Yeah, so with like a brain trauma or a brain injury that you might get from maybe, let's say, a car accident or something else, you would take months to recover, because obviously that injury is causing brain cells and other tissues to be damaged, and that needs to be repaired. But it sounds like probably now, even now in professional hockey, people are going out there and playing with concussion on other brain trauma. Like these things are layering up to a point where it's like post career or even during the career, there's going to be significant, serious psychological and physical effects of that going on and really affecting people's lives. So even now, like, is there a conversation about that happening now, especially like for young players? I think about the movie Concussion with Will Smith in, right, where it's a true story about NFL player. I'm pretty sure he's a really big deal, and I think he ends up committing suicide. And there's some other people involved in that movie where they I think then there's one guy that kills his family. Like, it's significant, and these individuals were living really, really normal lives, but they played such high level professional sports, and they're getting hit in their head like on a daily basis, especially in training as well, right? These guys are going out there to prove themselves, so they're going just as hard in training as they're going in the game. And there's a little bit of a conversation now in regards to how that head trauma can really affect people. And is there a discussion about that now, like in regards to protecting people or like having a bit more of an assessment over injury? Especially? Yeah.
There's a huge discussion, and also lots of work being done on what can be done to reduce concussions. Now in the NHL, I mean, let's face it, it's in the old days, people took pride in sending somebody into next week. It was a good hit. It was, wow, the guy had his head down and he paid a price for it. I mean, this is the very first time ever in the history of the NHL that the defensive player who normally would inflict that hit is being told that if he has a player in a susceptible position where he knows he's going to crank the guy, he is to back off the hit. And the darndest thing is players who are sometimes making a pretty legitimate hit, but because the offensive player is leading with his head, he's leading with his face, it's almost impossible for him, even with just a good shoulder hit, he ends up injuring that player because the player is playing such head-down hockey. So the onus is being put on the defensive player to protect the offensive player, which was ridiculous to think about that when I played. It was the defenseman's job to put us either right through the boards. I mean, we got hit from behind. It wasn't until guys broke necks that piece got changed to to reduce the hits from behind, and then the open ice mid heights hits where players were coming straight at each other. That's the ones that really hurt players, and so the NHL has done a good job of attempting to get that out of the game. Right now, there's less hitting in the NHL than there ever has been in the history of hockey. So I do want to say that so the hits, the glutens contributed to my inability to focus, plus this black cloud that would just move in. And really, I just want to say a huge thank you to Terry Paskrick for having come along. I really believe he's an angel. And if you actually see him, his hair is kind of white. He does look like an angel.
He does have a very angelic energy.
I mean, he brought this amazing EMP and free Minos, and to me at an incredible time. And really, I've enjoyed very good mental health the last 5 years, and also it's been through the Truehope products and also through going off glutens.
Do you think that there's a place now not just in the NHL, but obviously there's some very competitive leagues going down to different ages. Do you think there's a place for a product like Empower Plus and the conversation of the awareness of that, head injury is really serious and there are some things that we can be doing to reduce the damage when it's done? Because I think that it's really wonderful that there's less like head hits happening in NHL now. That's really, really amazing. But I'm sure it still happens because once you're out on the ice and the adrenaline's up and you're making those micro decisions when you're playing, it can be very difficult to not go in. Sometimes when you don't go in hard, you can come off worse, right? So I wonder if there's a place now for a conversation with these organizations that, there's a lot of money involved in these sports and protecting the players is obviously really important. Do you think there's a way that, let's just say Empower Plus can be associated with a sport like that, hockey, where there's a lot of head injury involved? Oh
yes, and the thing is, Hockey Canada and the various Hockey Alberta, they've done a tremendous job of taking hitting out of minor hockey, and it's amazing the uproar that caused, when hitting was taken out of Pee Wee hockey. It was incredible, the backlash from many
people who wanted it
to stay in. And yet there was such in Pee Wee hockey and bantam hockey, sometimes the variance in sizes between one boy who's grew and he's now 200 pounds and 6 feet, and the other boy that's like myself who's 4 foot nothing and who hasn't, the testosterone hasn't kicked in, and he's weighing a $110, and he's getting crushed by this other boy. And so minor hockey has done a good job at attempting to reduce that, yet there's still times when players do get hurt. And, so the brain damage, I'm not sure how much study is being done at that level right now. I would say there's being more study done at the professional level. Yet it would be good to also see what value Truehope products could be to minor hockey players who are experiencing concussions.
Absolutely, and not even just for a brain health, brain injury, brain recovery sense, but obviously we're talking about a significantly powerful micronutrient supplement that could actually even enhance performance. Obviously sport is primarily physical, but there's so much mental athletics that goes into playing a high level sport. You obviously have to be very, very cognitively aware of what's going on around you. You have to be really smart to play high level sports. So not necessarily just talking about brain injury, but being able to actually enhance your performance would just be a wonderful added benefit.
Well, also with today's society, like my daughter, who's 16, turning 17, she spends so much time on her phone, and I almost wonder how much that takes away from her ability to concentrate. Or it seems like much of what goes on the phone is just short bursts, like a quick TikTok. So I notice, I believe that she just sometimes struggles in being able to focus, getting started on her homework. She is almost the way I was, constantly wanting to be distracted. Yeah. And so it's really cool to have her right now on free aminos and also the inositol.
How's she doing?
Well, she's actually getting pretty good marks in school, and it's been a challenge through this COVID time. So, and it has been a challenge to get her to go from being a little bit scattered to be able to focus. Now, whether that's just a teenage thing, it could be. Okay. But it also could be, she could be a product of her environment.
You clearly have a big passion for Truehope and Empower Plus from your experience with personal use, and you do a lot of speaking events that involve Truehope. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, what's cool is Terry and I have visited various health food stores throughout Alberta, and So we've done different presentations, and Terry talks about his story, and then I give a chat about mine, and also I bring along my various NHL jerseys and small side jerseys, so everybody gets to have a picture taken later with them on. And actually, it's kind of cool. Like, there's something about when somebody gets to put on an NHL jersey for the first time, they get a kick out of it.
The first jersey I ever wore was with you in a show in Calgary a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've had some fun with that. And then what's been, and I believe we've given hope to some people who have shown up. Like, there's been mothers that have shown up with sons. And I see in the son the same spot where I was. It could be possibly what they're eating could be contributing it to their problems. It could be what they're missing in their food. And that's one thing. EMP, it has such incredible nutrition and supplement to it. So it could be really filling in. Yeah. So Terry and I, we've had some very enjoyable times together.
Wonderful. Who would you recommend would try Empower Plus?
Well, I think anybody that suffers, I would recommend it for anybody that suffers from schizophrenia. I believe that it can help schizophrenics. Even though I didn't get to see the proof with my brother Leonard. Anybody with bipolar mental illness, anybody that's suffering from anxiety or black depression, and if there's somebody who's having difficulty focusing, I feel that the product can help them. I've noticed that, what's happened is there's been a few times I've actually run out of my product, and I've done it just to see how I'd feel, and it's amazing how the uneasiness is the very first thing to come back, and then the blackness starts to creep back in. So,
do you notice that pretty quickly?
Yeah, it's normally the uneasiness within about 2 days, and then the darkness just starts to come back in, and that's when I've got to get a new supply.
Yeah, and that's when it's a really important thing that we have to be consistently giving our body these micronutrients, because our body is working at such a high rate. Our physical body and our mind as well, uses our resources on such a significant level, and we have to be giving it that consistent source of it. And then people who have experienced something like you've gone through, and they miss a day, they miss a couple of days, they notice it really quickly. And it's obviously really important to make sure that you're stocked up solid.
Yeah. And actually one other group in this, maybe it might be really good for younger kids who perhaps have too much energy. Because I've noticed that when I use these products, I have there's a calmness that comes in also. I react negatively less often. I'm able to basically call a timeout, take a moment, what's really going on, and respond instead of getting triggered. So that's I would say that these products have helped me that way. So for some young children who are, I'm not quite sure what it would be called, but who are just simply have too much energy, this could be something that could just naturally help them perhaps be calmer. And you know what? This is, I believe when Terry came along a number of years ago, I said to him, it's pretty fascinating how difficult it is to just simply feel good. Like to wake up and actually feel optimistic about the day, to actually feel good. How does this saying go? Open up my eyes and, oh God, another day. Or to open up our eyes and say, oh God, another day. So it's, and I feel that EMP, inositol, free minerals gives me the opportunity to feel good.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think we live in a world that is a little bit more stressful than we might admit. I think we've got a lot of distractions coming at us from this external world that affects our mind and our body in ways that we might not be conscious of. And if you couple that with the fact that our food just isn't what it was, it's really essential that we do supplement in the right way, in the right dosages, depending on our individual circumstances. And as you say, it can be the difference between not wanting to wake up and get out of bed in the morning to kicking the duvet off and springing out of bed. Yeah, because
Bingo.
right
on.
I think everyone should be feeling like that, and I understand how people might not be in that position, but there are absolutely things out there that can help you get to where you want to be. Awesome. Well, we're going to stop it there, Maurice. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Simon.
Thank you. Yeah, and we've actually got some video footage of Maurice talking more about his product experience with us from various health shows, so we'll make sure we link those into the show notes. But again, Maurice, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and you know what? I'd like to say thanks to David Steffen and to his father for having come up with this, and for David also in persisting to get the message out. I believe that because of that persistence, I got introduced to Terry and was able to get on these amazing products, and I'm truly thankful. Thanks.
Yeah, really well said, Maurice. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. This is Truehope Cast, the official podcast of Truehope Canada. We will see you next week. Goodbye.